Welcome to the Apprenticeship and Training Office's Part 2 presentation on registered apprenticeship paperwork and accreditation. If you are attending this presentation, you have already attended our orientation, and this presentation is meant to build off of the orientation presentation and offer you a deeper dive into the paperwork and accreditation process of your registered apprenticeship program. If you have not completed the orientation session, please reach out to your regional apprenticeship and training representative. And this training consists of two parts. So part one was training of an overview of the registered apprenticeship field division, standards of apprenticeship, Appendix A that contains the training plan, safety and OSHA, and Appendix B, the apprentice agreement form. In part two of this training, it will consist of reviewing in detail Appendix D, which is the program summary, Appendix E, the employer acceptance agreement, and Appendix F, the safety plan, along with an overview of accessing the A-2 resources. So I will encourage you to follow along with this presentation and reference the registration packet that your ATR would have emailed you. If you don't have a copy of the registration packet, please go to the ATO's resources page that is linked here. And the document that you want to download is called the RA registration packet. So, overview of the Registered Apprenticeship Division. So we have the ATR Field Supervisor, plays a key role in supporting both the ATRs and the program sponsors, overseeing and managing the day-to-day activities of the ATR field staff. In addition to supervision, the field supervisor handles a range of duties that include outreach and promotion, compliance management, and providing technical guidance to ensure smooth operations across all apprenticeship efforts. And each sponsor is assigned an ATR based on their geographic region or the specific occupation for which they are developing a registered apprenticeship program. This assigned ATR serves as the primary point of contact and provides support and technical assistance throughout the paperwork process, helping sponsors navigate the requirements for registration. The regional ATRs are responsible for delivering technical assistance to both new and existing apprenticeship program sponsors with their designated geographical areas. They are available to support program development, expansion, and compliance within their assigned regions, and often collaborate across regions when needed. Additionally, there are special projects ATRs who focus on developing apprenticeship programs within emerging and new sector industries. These sectors include the arts, healthcare, agriculture, transportation, education, information technology, and hospitality. And these ATRs bring specialized expertise to help expand apprenticeship opportunities in new and evolving areas of the workforce. So going over program building again, so our ATRs work with sponsors at the speed of business. There is no fixed timeline for completing the accreditation process. Instead, the sponsor drives the timeline by identifying a target completion date and staying responsive to the ATR requests. And this pace also depends on the ATR's current workload. To establish expectations, sponsors will work with their ATR to set a regular meeting schedule, whether weekly, biweekly, or monthly, that supports progress towards the targeted approval date. The timeline for completing and submitting accreditation paperwork to Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Council is determined by the sponsor with guidance and support from the ATR. However, it's important to note that any meetings canceled by the sponsor may delay the process. Throughout this process, your assigned ATR will be your partner, working alongside you to build your program, complete paperwork, and provide assistance. They will offer guidance on apprenticeship regulations, standards, and best practices to help ensure your program is ready for approval. And program development includes ongoing communication and multiple rounds of review and feedback. This can feel overwhelming at times, but ATRs are here to support you every step of the way. And our shared goal is to help you build a high quality program that benefits both the sponsor and the apprentice. And finally, if an ATR makes a recommendation that you choose not to implement, we ask that you submit that decision in writing. And keep in mind, similar recommendations may arise later during council review as part of the approval process to help strengthen your program. All right, an overview of the registration paperwork. So this paperwork forms the foundation of the accreditation process. There are several documents required to complete the registration packet, and we'll walk through each of them in more detail. But the core documents include in the registration packet are the standards of apprenticeship, Appendix A, Appendix B, and we are going to review Appendix D, the program summary, Appendix E, the employer acceptance agreement, and then Appendix F, the safety plan. And to support this process, sponsors should reference the Registering an Apprenticeship Program Guide for employers and sponsors. This guide offers step-by-step instructions for completing each document and navigating the registration process. And additionally, there is a sponsor registration checklist quick guide designed to help sponsors track their progress and ensure all required materials are complete. There are up to 10 documents that may need to be submitted to the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Council as part of the official registration packet. And all templates for all required documents are available on our ATO resources page, along with detailed instructions on how to complete them. All right, so Appendix D provides the council with an overview of your apprenticeship program. It includes 22 questions that highlight the information the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship and Training Council is particularly interested in, including details on the sponsor's workforce, the program's training provider, and the program's focus on safety. It's also a useful tool for helping sponsors to identify different aspects of their program that need to be thought through in advance of program registration. So Appendix D is presented in lieu of a formal and lengthy verbal presentation to the council. However, sponsors should be prepared to give a brief 3-minute elevator pitch that provides an overview of their new program. The pitch should include information such as details on the occupation, the RTI that will be provided, the competencies that will be taught, and why the training is best provided through an apprenticeship program. Taken together, Appendix D and the elevator pitch provide you with an opportunity to sell your program. This form should be completed using information contained in the other appendices. So, Appendix D includes 18 questions for individual programs and a total of 22 questions for group programs that cover an overview of the sponsor organization, workforce needs, details on the RTI training provider, details of the OJT, planned activities on recruiting apprentices, details on program safety as it relates to the occupation, potential partnership with a registered pre-apprenticeship program, and the specific questions pertaining to group sponsors. So I'm going to review each question in Appendix D. So question 1, provide an overview of your organization, school, or business. So in your answer, we should give a brief description, 4 to 8 sentences of your organization. Begin with the company's name and the creation of the company. Concisely describe what the organization does, and then highlight the value your organization offers to customers, and then conclude with providing the location of the organization. Question 2. So describe your current workforce needs that this apprenticeship program will help address. So topics to consider when answering this question is recruit and develop a highly skilled workforce that helps grow your business, improve productivity, profitability, and an employer's bottom line, minimize liability costs through appropriate training of workers, or an increased retention of workers during and following the apprenticeship. Question 3. Discuss why you want to be a registered apprenticeship sponsor. For example, do you want to formalize your current training, or do you want to provide more skills for your current workforce? So topics to consider when answering is building a qualified talent pipeline by training apprentices, developing a pool of skilled workers who are integrated in company culture, provide industry-specific training for apprentices to acquire necessary skills in their roles, or flexible training options allow for flexible training tailored to specific needs of your organization, and also customization ensures workers develop the right competencies. Question 4, describe your organization's history with apprenticeship and any results or successes to date. If you have an existing apprenticeship program, describe the program and the occupation along with the successes of the program. So are there apprentice success rates that you would like to share? And are there growth rates within the organization that you would like to share? If you do not have a current apprenticeship program, you can discuss the successes of your current training, any developed training plans, or internships or other training development programs that are current within your organization. Question 5, provide a brief overview of the program. For example, details on the occupation, the RTI that will be provided, and the competencies or job tasks that will be taught. Just to note, this answer is shared and will be used to describe the program for various public-facing purposes, including the public-facing listing of all registered apprenticeship programs. So this information is important if you wish to be included on the eligible training provider list. So when a job seeker looks for jobs through the PA Acrylic, or the PA Acrylic staff is looking for a good fit for a job seeker, the information placed here is helpful for their search. So this answer should be limited to 1 to 2 paragraphs, and we have an example here to share. So the example is Company A is an established commercial and residential construction company in South Central PA. The Carpenter Registered Apprenticeship Program is a program where apprentices will become proficient in utilizing various hand and power tools, construct and install building frameworks, including walls, floors, and door frames. Apprentices will install structures and fixtures such as windows, doors, and moldings, and carpenter apprentices will learn to follow blueprints and building plans. The program length is a total of 8,000 hours or 4 years of on-the-job learning and 576 total hours of related technical instruction. Question 6, so discuss why this training is best provided through an apprenticeship program. So what benefits does the apprenticeship approach offer? Topics to consider when answering this question is earn while you learn approach, industry recognized credentials, career advancement, highly skilled workforce, improved productivity and profitability, flexible training options, or reducing liability costs. Question 7. What is the perceived community and/or economic impact of this program? For example, increased supply of skilled labor for a specific sector, help replace an aging workforce in that sector, or more underrepresented apprentices recruited. So apprenticeships can help companies and organizations close workforce gaps, reduce turnover, and increase productivity while cultivating a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive work environment. So, what is the positive economic impact to the region? And so you want to keep your answer here between 4 and 8 sentences. Question 8. How is this program funded and what is the long-term plan for sustainability? So it is best that an apprenticeship program can be self-sufficient by having the ability to support the RTI and wages of the apprentices. But if the sponsor is looking to use federal, state, or local funding or grants, describe how it will be used on a short and long-term basis. Apprenticeship programs should be sustainable for long-term. For nonprofit sponsoring organizations, discuss long-term partners, how long they have been able to sustain their current programs to show a history of long-term successes. And your ATRs, they can work more closely on your individual situation on how to word your sustainability plan. Question 9. Are there any costs that the apprentice will be responsible for? So the goal is that the apprentices should not acquire any financial costs while participating in the apprenticeship program. If there is a cost, please work with your ATR to discuss further to determine if the apprenticeship is the right fit for your program. There are some instances where a very low cost may be approved, and if there are no costs, the apprentice will be responsible for input in the text box. There is no cost to the apprentices. And if associated costs are related to clothing, tools, or equipment to support the apprentice, this may be allowable and should be discussed with the ATR and a cost list provided as well. So for question 10, who is your RTI provider and what will be taught and how will training be provided? So to answer this question, you want to list the RTI provider or providers. Will the RTI be conducted in person, so at the location? Is the RTI online or both? Give a brief overview of the instructors. List instructors' qualifications of providing the RTI, especially if the employer is the RTI provider. Provide the amount of RTI hours and a list of main topics of what will be taught. For example, how many hours per week will the apprentice complete? Outline what this schedule will look like week to week or month to month. Is the RTI completed in the evening or during the workday? And is there any lab work associated to the RTI? So when you are completing the RTI document in the hours section, you will have the total amount of hours. If there is an online component and a lab component, you will want to show how many hours will be online and how many hours for lab. More on question 10, answering about RTI. So if the RTI is online, you should input how the apprentices will receive guidance throughout the RTI. So how will the apprentice be able to access the instructor during the coursework if there are any questions? For example, are there office hours? Can the instructors be reached by email? And are there going to be any scheduled phone calls? Will there be certain benchmarks that will occur to show that the apprentices are retaining the material? Is there a validation process to track the completion of the RTI hours? Describe if the apprentice will have to complete testing to acquire the credential and what test the apprentice will take. And then also describe the process if an apprentice does not pass the credential. Will there be an opportunity to retest? And is there a cost for the retest? For question 11, do apprentices receive third-party credentials, for example, industry certifications, licenses, etc.? So if so, please provide the details. So you need to list all the credentials the apprentice will acquire. If a credential is listed in this answer, it will also need to be included in the RTI outline. Then determine if the credential will be necessary for the apprentice to complete the apprenticeship, and all credentialing should be necessary to complete the apprenticeship. So it is highly recommended that all registered apprenticeship programs result in a credential or a certificate. So examples of these include certifications, diplomas, degrees, and or college credits. Question 12. So please address the transferability of skills to other employers. In what ways will skills the apprentice is learning be applicable to other employers in your industry or other industries? So here's an example that you can reference. So those that complete the Carpenter Registered Apprenticeship Program will acquire the knowledge and skills to be able to transfer to various occupations in the building trades industry. The skills include technical proficiency, problem solving, attention to detail, and safety awareness. So experienced carpenters have advanced their careers to foremen, job site supervisors, and project managers. But as the apprentice progresses, they will gain experience with the following transferable hard and soft skills, such as physical stamina, hand-eye coordination, safety, problem solving, and critical thinking. So here's an additional example that can be used as well for transferable skills. So a carpenter can use the following skills obtained during the apprenticeship program, such as problem solving, attention to detail, teamwork, communication, adaptability, and safety awareness on a resume to effectively demonstrate suitability for roles in diverse industries beyond carpentry. And these occupations could include instructors, managers, sales, or inventory, or quality control. For question 13, provide an overview of your workforce. How much experience do your journey workers have? What certifications do they have? And what experience do they have mentoring on a job training? So input the number of journey workers and years of experience required to be a journey worker in your answer. Are there specific credentials the journey workers possess? Explain current journey workers' experience in mentoring. Will the journey workers or mentors receive trainer-trainer training and other mentor training? And then you also have to note that apprentices that complete the apprenticeship program will be considered a journey worker. And question 14, if a competency-based program, describe your evaluation criteria for a satisfactory competency achievement. So if your program is a competency-based or hybrid, sponsor will need to complete this question. So provide a summary of the evaluation process that will be completed for each apprentice. So you may want to reference an evaluation rubric for this as well. So if it is a time-based program, input in this text box NA. Question 15. What methods of recruitment do you intend to employ? So you can certainly utilize the following resources when answering this question. So pre-apprenticeship programs, PA Curling Centers, workforce development boards, job fairs, high schools, or social media. Question 16. Describe any planned activities to recruit from underrepresented populations, for example, women, people of color, etc. So you can certainly use these resources. So connecting with PA Curling Centers, workforce development boards, or Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. Collaborate with community organizations that support underrepresented groups, and develop recruitment materials that highlight diversity and inclusion. Question 17. Discuss your program's focus on safety. For example, what safety procedures are put in place and part of the on-the-job training in RTI, and what certifications are required. So safety is a priority to highlight throughout the paperwork. Definitely want to ensure safety is detailed in this section and that it aligns with what is learned during the on-the-job training and related technical instruction. If certifications are listed here and in question number 10, these certifications will also need to be included in the work process schedule and the RTI outline. And then also, do you currently have a safety committee and ongoing safety meetings that you could highlight in this answer? For question 18, do you plan to partner with a registered pre-apprenticeship program? If so, please provide the details. So details could be any advanced standing given, and then also potential automatic interviews. So in your answer here, the details include the name of the pre-apprenticeship program and the sponsoring organization, which are registered with the state. Also include pre-apprenticeship programs that are not developed yet, but are currently in the process of becoming registered with the state. If no, then input NA in the text box. So for questions number 19 through 22, these are for group-sponsored programs only. So for question 19, what employers do you have on board? So only list employers that will have completed the employer acceptance agreements, the Appendix E's, at the time of registration. So you must have a minimum of 2 employers before going to council. And the sponsor can include additional employers after registration is complete. And the additional employers will need to complete the employer acceptance agreements and then update rapids. For question 20, how do you decide which employers to work with? So the topics that you can consider when answering this question, industry alignment. So choose employers that operate within the same industry. Reputation and track record. Employers that have solid reputation for quality training and mentorship. Capacity and commitment. So assess employers' capacity to support apprenticeship training and training capabilities. Assess employers' ability to offer comprehensive training across all required competencies. Diversity and inclusion. Aim to partner with employers who embrace diversity and inclusivity in their workforce. And location and accessibility. Accessibility can impact the feasibility and convenience of apprentices commuting to the workplace. And regular compliance. Ensure employers adhere to relevant regulatory requirements and standards related to the apprenticeship program. So we have an employer application form to use for recruiting employers if you are interested in it. So you can certainly connect with your ATR on that. Question 21. So how do you ensure your employers are properly overseeing their apprenticeship program? So outline how and with what methods are used to oversee employers. Is there a JATC or ATC? Are there regular meetings with the employers? Is there an evaluation or survey with employers and the apprentices? And are there on-site visits? Question 22. So how do you ensure the employers you sign on are following safety procedures, and how do you monitor this? So outline how and with what methods are used to oversee safety with the employers. Are there safety committees, safety meetings to highlight? Are there on-site visits to evaluate the safety procedures? How often are the safety meetings being held or site visits? And any documentation provided to sign off on safety at each location. So that concludes the Appendix D overview, and we are going to move on to Appendix E. So employers who join a group sponsorship complete an employer acceptance agreement. It contains information similar to what is included in Appendix A, but is specific to the employer who is joining the group-sponsored program. So when an employer joins an existing group-sponsored program, they are able to leverage an existing apprenticeship framework, and the apprentice will work for the employer, but the overall operation of the apprenticeship program is managed by the organization that sponsored the program. So this provides the employer with the flexibility of getting started almost immediately. So there are 8 sections of the employer acceptance agreement. So I'm going to go over them. It's the employer information, workforce numbers, the apprentice wage schedule, the ratio of apprentices to journey workers overview, qualifications and selection procedures, joint apprenticeship and training committee, collective bargaining agreements, and the official adoption. So by signing an employer agreement, the employer is indicating that they will follow the program as set forth by the sponsor. So the employers should read the document before signing. And for employer information, so at the beginning of Appendix E, they should enter in the occupation and name of the sponsor. They enter the name and address of the employer joining the group program and the contact information for the person at the employer who will manage the apprenticeship program. For workforce numbers, specify the total number of journey workers within the company. This will be based off on question 13 of Appendix D that explains the requirements of a journey worker. And the total number of journey workers will determine how many apprentices can be enrolled in the program. For the apprentice wage schedule, so specify the minimum hourly journey worker wage rate. This is the lowest wage a fully qualified worker graduating the program will earn upon completion of the apprenticeship program. In the apprentice wage schedule, the journey worker wage must be equal to or higher than what is listed in Appendix A. The wage schedule percentages, hours, and competencies must match Appendix A. After completing the wage schedule, specify if training will occur during work hours, not during work hours, or both. Also specify whether apprentices will be paid for time spent attending classroom training. And this question is dependent upon the program sponsor's answer to Appendix A, Section 8. Regarding the ratio of apprentices to journey workers, any skilled worker who will be providing mentorship for some or all the apprentices on a job training is considered a journey worker. The apprentice to journey worker ratio should be consistent with proper supervision, training, safety, continuity of employment, and for joint programs, applicable provisions in the CBAs. So more on the ratio. So there are exemptions, and exemptions to council's standard ratios may be granted upon written request and approval of council. The ratio language must be specific and clearly described as to its application to safety, the job site, workforce, department, or plant. It must clearly explain and provide detailed information based upon industry standards and other recognized resources. But add an A if you are not requesting an exemption. For qualifications and selection procedures for apprenticeships, so identify any additional qualifications or selection procedures that the employer may have beyond what's included in Appendix A. Any additional qualifications required by the employer should be discussed with the program sponsor, and add an A if not additional qualifications or selection procedures. And this section of Appendix E is to only be used for joint employers and sponsors. So for joint apprenticeship and training committees, insert the frequency with which the offices of the JATC will rotate. If a JATC is not required, you can remove this section from the packet. And this is the continuation of the Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee section. And for official adoption, so the sponsor or employer and union, if applicable, must sign, print name, and date the document. Remember, sponsors must have a minimum of 2 completed employer acceptance agreements prior to presenting the program to council. So now we will review Appendix F, which is the safety plan. Listed here are example topics regarding safety based on the industry, such as the building trades, healthcare, business professional, and manufacturing as just examples. And sponsors can use their current safety plan, but the safety plan should be focused on the occupation, not just the overall industry or organization. So when developing a safety plan for your apprenticeship program, it's important to tailor the content specifically to the occupation rather than relying on a broad organization-wide or industry-wide approach. So listed here under each industry are safety topics that you can certainly reference and use as a guide when identifying the most relevant and occupation-specific safety considerations to include in the Appendix F safety plan. And while sponsors are welcome to use their existing safety plans as a starting point, the safety plan included in the apprenticeship framework should directly reflect the day-to-day risk and safety requirements of the apprentice's actual job role. And this ensures that the training is not only compliant with standards, but also practical, meaningful, and it directly is tied to the apprentice's work environment. All right, so when you are accessing the apprenticeship's resources, you can certainly navigate to our website through the PA Curling portal. And here at the red bar, click here for registered apprenticeship resources. That is where you can access all of the templates and guides. And here is the link to access the resources from the Apprenticeship Training Office. And here's what the page will look like, and your ATR can support you on what resources to use and when, but we recommend that you look through all of the available resources. And here is a list of the information, the resources, the templates that we went over during the presentation. And apprenticeship programs are a win-win for employers and employees. So employers are better able to hire and train workers with the specific skills they need and ensure that the knowledge of their older workers is transferred to the younger generation before they retire. Employees are able to earn while they learn, and earning an industry recognized credential and developing their careers in partnership with their employer. And the formalized structure of the apprenticeship program is what helps makes them a success and what qualifies them for additional sources of funding and other support. So the information and resources provided in this presentation are meant to make establishing an apprenticeship program easier. But if you still are probably having a lot of questions, so please reach out to your ATR for further support. If you are unsure of your assigned ATR, please contact the Registered Apprenticeship Division using the resource account here and or calling the office's phone number. And we look forward to working with you, and I thank you for reviewing this presentation. Thanks.